It started with rain, Chicago rain, the kind that turns traffic lights into smeared jewels and makes the L tracks sing a tired, metallic lullaby. On the corner of Halsted and Maple sits a stubborn little diner with a neon sign that blinks when it feels like it. Inside, coffee breathes, plates clatter, and lives brush against each other without ever truly meeting. I was there that morning. Sarah, waitress, 32, 2 jobs, 1 overdue bill away from panic. When the door swung open, wind and water shouldered their way in, and with them came a man who looked like a memory in a thread bar. He paused by the window, leaving faint prints on the polished floor. His hair was storm hair, his shoes tired. He counted coins in his palm once, twice, like maybe the math would change out of pity. It didn't. "Coffee's on me," I said, "because sometimes the drawer is short and sometimes your heart is long." I poured a dark, steady stream into a heavy white mug and set it in front of him. He sat. He wrapped both hands around the heat like it was a small fireplace. We didn't start with names. We started with weather and the strength of the brew, with how Chicago has a way of testing your bones. When I finally asked, he lifted his eyes. "Henry," he said. "Henry Whitaker." "Sarah," I answered, tapping the name stitched to my apron. "Refills are free, opinions are extra." Mary shouting orders. Marla the owner counting pies. A mother cutting pancakes into exact squares for a toddler who demanded circles. The place was a small America, messy, loud, and somehow tender. Henry watched it all like a man listening for a tune he used to know. He wasn't talkative, but when the front bell jingled and a delivery guy shouldered in with a busted umbrella, Henry's whole face changed, as if the world had just played a note he recognized. "Storms," he murmured. "You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a storm." "You play?" I asked. "I used to listen for a living. I used to travel town to town with a kit and a pitch pipe, making old pianos sing again in churches, schools, living rooms where kids hammered keys with sticky fingers." He said it like a confession and a prayer. "Used to?" I echoed. He nodded once. "My wife, Ella, she knew every song. When she was gone, the music didn't know where to go." He didn't say more. He didn't have to. Grief speaks fluent silence. My turn. Maybe kindness is a mirror. I heard myself tell him how I'd wanted art school but found invoices instead. How I sketch on guest checks during slow mornings. How bills are heavy even when paper is light. I laughed it off. He didn't. "Dreams get tired," Henry said, "not dead, just tired." He finished slowly, like he was rationing warmth. When I turned to grab a pie for table 4, he left, the gentle clink of a mug set precisely in its saucer. Under it, a folded envelope, rain-speckled. On the front, "For Sarah." I held it to the light. Inside, a single page, neat cursive along blue lines. "You gave me 5 minutes of dignity and a cup of courage. Today I wasn't sure I wanted tomorrow. Your kindness changed that. If this finds you on a hard day, let it remind you. What you pour into the world returns in ways you can't predict." After the letter, I stood by the coffee machine with the letter in my hand and a lump in my throat while Mary called, "Order up," and life insisted on continuing. I tucked the note into the pocket with my pens. Outside, the rain thinned to a silver mist. Henry was gone, as if the door had swallowed him back into the city. For days after, I caught echoes. A piano tinkling from a walk-up window, a busker on State Street coaxing Blue Moon from a tired keyboard, the way spoons on saucers sometimes sound like notes. The letter rode with me, through rent due, through double shifts, through my mother's text asking if I was eating. The words worked like aspirin on a headache you didn't know you were carrying. 2 weeks later, he came back. Same coat, different eyes, clearer, like he'd slept. He ordered coffee and, unusually, pie. "Cherry." "I took a walk to the lake," he said, as if picking up a conversation we'd paused. "Heard a piano in a church basement. I asked if it wanted to be in tune again." "You asked the piano?" "I asked the room," he said, smiling. "Pianos don't break alone. An idea." He asked if the diner ever did live music. Marla snorted from the register. "Only if Mary's pots and pans count." Henry's eyes drifted to the corner where a dusty upright sat beneath a quilt of old menus and bad decisions. It had been there forever, once a decoration, now a rumor. "May I?" he asked. Marla waved a hand. "If it explodes, you're buying new windows." He lifted the lid, pressed one key, winced, pressed another, nodded. He pulled a small leather roll from his coat, tools shining like tiny moons, and began turning pins with the patience of a watchmaker. The diner kept moving, but a hush grew around him. The kind of quiet that happens when people remember they have hearts. Ella's song. When he finally played, it wasn't loud. It was a conversation between wood and wire, between what was and what might still be. A melody rose, gentle, sure-footed, familiar like the smell of cinnamon on a Sunday. "That was our song," he said afterward, eyes shining. Ella called it the stay song. Whenever life said go, she'd play it till I remembered to stay. Sunday nights. He came back the next day and the next. He tuned between refills, told stories between chords, gymnasium recitals with chairs that pinched, wedding halls where brides cried happy tears, old men who could barely climb the stairs but could still play Stardust without looking at their hands. Marla, who negotiates with utility companies like a heavyweight, surprised us all by saying, "What if we do a Sunday night thing? Pie and piano. Call it Maple Street Sessions." I stayed late to design flyers on the office computer, printing them on pink paper, because that's what was left. Henry walked them around the neighborhood. I tucked one into my sketchbook and drew a little piano on it. Felt silly. Drew another. By the weekend, the board by the door was cluttered with sign-ups. First, a kid named Nate, who wanted to try a Beatles song, then a retired teacher, then a woman from the night shift at the hospital who just needed to hear something that wasn't a monitor beeping. He played the stay song till the room unclenched its fists. Storm took the block dark on our third Sunday. No lights, just the thunder and our collective sigh. Marla reached for the closed sign. Henry shook his head. "We can still listen." We set candles in coffee cups and someone found a box of tea lights meant for Valentine's Day. The piano glowed like a ship at sea. In the dim, the room felt brave and close. Henry played by memory. People sang so softly it sounded like forgiveness. Afterward, he lingered at the window, watching the rain draw chalk lines on the street. "I need to tell you something," he said. "That first day when you gave me coffee, I had a plan to stop. Not the day your kindness interrupted it." I didn't speak. He nodded, reading the worry on my face. "I'm seeing someone now," he said. "A counselor on the north side. I'm okay. I have just wanted you to know the size of what you did with something so small." We sat with that truth the way you sit with a friend after a long road. Quiet, grateful, aware of the distance behind you. "I'm glad you stayed," I said finally. "Me too," he answered. A week later, a package arrived at the diner addressed to me. Inside, a used but beautiful camera, a note from Marla that said, "For your portfolio. Consider it an investment. Pay me back with one picture of something true." Henry winked. The storm returned on our first Sunday like it wanted credit for the whole idea. Still, people came in damp and hopeful, shrugging off coats, shaking umbrellas like dogs. The diner smelled like rain and sugar. Henry tapped the keys, soft, testing, and then began. Conversations fell into the music, the way leaves fall into a river and learn to float. I poured coffee, forgot to breathe, remembered, and breathed again. At the counter, I tore the cardboard from a pie box and sketched. Henry's hands like maps, the curve of the piano lid, the reflection of neon in a coffee spoon. I hadn't drawn like that in years. When I looked up, he was watching me with that tuning fork attention. "Apply," he said simply. "For what?" "For the life that keeps calling you." I laughed, the brittle kind that pretends it isn't protecting a bruise. "Art school costs. Dreams cost more when you don't pay attention," he said, then added softer, "Let me at least write your recommendation." "You don't know me." He shrugged. "I know the way you look at the world, that's most of the knowing." The next afternoon, he left another envelope, this one thicker. Inside, the recommendation, yes, crafted like a sonata, but also a copy of the first letter, now with an added line. "Some of us need a hand to keep living. Some of us are the hand. You were mine. Let me be yours." I cried in the tiny staff bathroom so hard Mary knocked and asked if the onions were too strong. Applications, portfolios, deadlines. Every step felt like pushing through wet wool. The week I was supposed to submit, the diner's oven blew and Marla needed cash fast. I volunteered my savings, every tip I'd scraped together. Henry frowned when he found out. "You can do both," he insisted. "Not this month," I said. "Bills don't wait for dreams." Congratulations. I'd been accepted to the community college's evening art program with a partial scholarship. I printed it. I framed it in the cheap frame aisle at Target. I brought it to the diner and set it on the pie case. Mary threatened to frost it by accident. We turned the next Sunday into a party. The nurse brought cupcakes, the cop paid for 2 whole tables. The mom with the pancake squares cried and didn't apologize. Henry played a waltz Ella used to hum. I sketched the room as if I could keep it, and the ones who stay for. The goodbye wasn't grand. He left after breakfast with a duffel and his tool roll, leaving behind, of course, an envelope. "Dear Sarah, turned a cup of coffee into a lighthouse. Keep it lit. Here's a list of places I'll be. If you ever doubt your art, go to one of them and listen for me. I'll be the man trying to make the world ring true. The stay song belongs to you now. Play it for the next person who thinks the night is forever." I pressed the letter to my chest and promised the air I would. A year stretched like a ribbon down Maple Street. I finished my first semester. We hosted a small show of my sketches on the diner walls. The hands, the faces, the curve of steam lifting from a mug like a question mark. People bought them for prices that made me blush. Marla cried into the register and blamed the onions again. Henry's postcards arrived from St. Louis, Des Moines, Missoula. Always a piano drawn in the corner. Always a line about a room learning to sing. On a fall Sunday, the door opened and there he was. Older maybe, lighter definitely. He played the stay song and something new, Joy with Calluses. After, he sat at the counter and took a bite of cherry pie big enough to make Mary applaud. "How's the road?" I asked. "Out there?" He tilted his head toward the window. "Storms and sunlight in here?" He tapped his chest. "Mostly sunlight." A teenager came in soaked and shivering, hood up, all bravado and no plan. He pretended not to see the help wanted sign. I poured him cocoa on the house. Henry offered to show him how the action of a piano works, and the kid, against his own rules, leaned in. Later, when the boy asked, "Why would you two help me?" I answered with the only truth I know. Because someone helped us when we were you. If you're listening to this now on a hard morning, hear me. Pour the first cup for someone. Hold the door, write the letter. Tune one small thing in the room you're in. You can't fix the weather. You can warm a hand. And sometimes that's exactly the hinge the day was waiting on. Close your eyes and picture it. Rain softening to mist. Neon blinking honestly for once. A diner on a Chicago corner with a window fogged by breath and song. Inside, a woman with a pitch pipe around her neck sketches a man at a piano. And every line she draws says the same word the music keeps saying. Stay. Have you ever passed by Maple Street when the clouds gather? Come in. There's an empty booth by the window and a cup with your name on it. If you need a reason to keep going, we'll pour you one, hot, strong, and free to refill. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more.